All right, live Q&A. What's up, YouTube? Let's get right into it. Okay, our offer date's back. Super interesting. We're starting to see some offer dates starting to come back in the market, definitely depending on the product and type and how it looks, of course. And I would say in certain areas where the activity in certain pockets of the city, for example, a single family semi-detached or detached home in relatively, let's say, kind of that, I would say anywhere between 1 to 1.5 or even 1.5 to 2 million seem to be pretty active right now. We're seeing more and more offers coming in on these properties. They're not selling for a crazy amount above the offer date price, but just being they're still having these offer dates, and we're seeing like 8, 10, I even saw 20 the other day, but not seeing a crazy high price point like we saw back 2 years ago when it comes to offer dates. So just something, it depends on the property type and the area and things like that. Is it a good time to buy with rates where they're at? So this is a great question. I think the most best way to answer this would be to say that it really depends. It depends on your personal situation. Rates are high. To borrow money, it's expensive. We're looking somewhere around the 5.5 to 6.5 range, depending on the mortgage, obviously. So definitely not cheap where compared to where rates were even 2 years ago. But that being said, prices have definitely pulled back from where they were 2 years ago. And what we've seen, and if you've been following any of my YouTube videos, the last one I did with the charts on where pricing went compared to where rates were, and then the inverse relationship when rates go up, how pricing's come down. And that's directly related to people's buying power. So if you are looking for a cheap price and a cheap rate, they might not always go hand in hand. Typically, the cheaper the rate, the higher the price, because then people's buying powers are typically higher. One of the questions, is it a good time to buy? Well, again, it depends. If you're looking for a condo or looking to get into the market for the first time, we are seeing a lot of condos that have been on the market for 60, 70, 80 days that have been sitting at a certain price point. Maybe that's a good opportunity to go and negotiate on those properties. And also too, is it a good time to buy? Maybe that's your opportunity to get into one of these properties at maybe a bit of a higher rate now versus a higher price where they were at even a year or two ago. So just something to consider. It's really case by case dependent. And with the higher rates, you also have to know your own financing. Can you afford those higher rates, those higher payments? And maybe you're getting a better purchase price, but maybe the monthly cost is a little more expensive, which is what people typically feel. Or if rates come down, the monthly purchase cost would be lower. Your monthly cost would be lower, but maybe your purchase price might be higher. So it might offset itself. Just something to consider there, and definitely a case by case basis. Happy to have that conversation anytime, of course. Are condos starting to move? This is another great question. Starting to see condos moving. So stuff that has been on the market for 60, 70 days, what I just mentioned, we're starting to see more and more sold conditionally on some of these properties. So what that tells me is these properties are starting to move, people are starting to get back into the market, and we are seeing a bit more buyer activity out there, especially these first 2 weeks of January. So just something to consider as we're moving along here into the winter month and into the spring market. Although with the weather, it feels like we are very much in the winter market still. So anyway, that's your live Q&A. Enjoy the rest of your Friday and have an awesome weekend.